What if you were on a plane that crashed and you were the only one to survive? How would you escape? Meet people like Viswas Kumar Ramesh, who walked away from disaster.
वो मेरे नज़रों के सब सामने हुआ था। मेरे खुद को भी बिलीव नहीं होता कि मैं कैसे उसमें से जिंदा बाहर निकला, क्योंकि थोड़ा टाइम लेके तो मेरे को लगा था कि मैं भी मरने वाला हूँ।
A plane crash, 241 people gone. But one person survived. These are their stories. You won't believe how they made it. Hi everyone. Today we're telling the amazing stories of people who survived plane crashes against all odds. Like Viswas Kumar Ramesh, who walked out of a burning plane. How did they do it? What made the difference between life and death? Let's find out as we explore these remarkable tales of human resilience. Meet Viswas Kumar Ramesh, a 40-year-old British national of Indian origin living in London. He was on Air India Flight 171 in 2025, flying home from India after visiting family. Just 32 seconds after takeoff, the Boeing 7878 Dreamliner crashed into a medical college building. Everyone thought no one could survive such a devastating impact, but Viswas did something extraordinary. The plane was a 12-year-old Boeing 7878 Dreamliner with 242 people on board. It crashed in Ahmedabad, India on June 12, 2025. Viswas was in seat 11A, a window seat in the first exit row. He had cuts, burns, and bruises, but walked away from the wreckage. Sadly, his brother Ajay, sitting across the aisle, didn't make it. The crash also killed 19 people on the ground and injured over 60 others. Viswas heard a loud noise, then felt the plane split apart around him. He saw the emergency door was broken by the impact, and there was an opening near his seat. He crawled out just before the fire got worse. He says, "I don't know how I'm alive. I just walked out." The simplicity of his escape belied the incredible luck and quick thinking that saved his life. After takeoff, after just 5 to 10 seconds, it seemed like the aircraft was stuck. Green and white lights came on inside the plane before it hit the building. Videos from the scene show the plane was airborne for only about half a minute before crashing in a massive blaze. When the emergency door broke from the impact, Viswas saw there was space to escape, so he crawled through the opening to safety. Viswas called his family from the wreckage, crying, "Where's my brother? Find Ajay." His family was overjoyed that he survived, but heartbroken for Ajay. Back in the UK, his brother Nayan told reporters that Viswas video called their dad immediately after the crash, saying he'd somehow survived but couldn't find Ajay. Today, Viswas is healing in a hospital. He's thankful to be alive and wants to hug his wife and child back home in London. Aviation expert John Hansman from MIT explains that Viswas was incredibly lucky to be near the emergency exit and acted fast to get out before the fire spread. Viswas was sitting in what usually isn't considered the safest place, toward the front of the aircraft. But in this landing accident, the tail hit first, causing the fuselage to break apart. That breaking created the opening that saved his life. Hansman says there's no one's safest seat on any plane. While accidents like this are incredibly rare, there are best practices. Put your seatbelt on tight, know where the exits are, and get out quickly. Don't wait and grab your belongings. Just get away as quickly as you can. Next, meet Bahia Bakari, a 12-year-old French girl who survived one of the most harrowing plane crashes in 2009. Her plane fell into the Indian Ocean, and she held on to a piece of the aircraft for 13 long hours until help came. Yemenia Flight 626 crashed near the Comoros Islands on June 30, 2009. Bahia was one of 153 people on board, and she was the only survivor. The Airbus A310 crashed during a night approach to Moroni Airport. She couldn't swim well, but held onto wreckage in the dark ocean waters. Bahia and her mother were traveling from Paris to attend her grandfather's wedding in the Comoros. She described the plane as smaller than expected, with flies inside and a strong bathroom smell. The flight went normally until the final landing descent, when everything went wrong. During the night approach, the Airbus A310 jet crashed into the Indian Ocean with its engines at full throttle. Bahia started to feel severe turbulence, but nobody was reacting much, so she told herself it must be normal. Suddenly, she felt something like an electric shock go through her body. There's a black hole in her memory between being seated in the plane and finding herself in the dark ocean water. Investigators found nothing wrong with the aircraft, blaming instead inappropriate actions by the crew during the approach to Moroni Airport. Bahia, regaining consciousness in the water, recalled waiting for hours, trying to climb onto the largest piece of debris she could reach, but lacking the strength to succeed. She realized that voices were calling for help in Comorian, and she cried out, but without much hope, because there was nothing but water around her. She ended up falling asleep while holding onto the plane debris. It was thinking of her protective mother that helped her hold on until she was rescued by a fishing boat after 13 grueling hours. Initially, she was convinced that she was the only one who fell and that the other passengers had arrived safely, before a psychologist told her she was the only survivor. The hardest thing for Bahia was losing her beloved mother, who was on the plane with her. She says she survived to tell her mother's story. Bahia, now 28 years old, testified in a French court in 2022 about her terrifying ordeal. She has written about her experience and become an inspiration to many. She's often called France's miracle girl. Now meet Juliane Kupcia, a 17-year-old who fell from the sky on Christmas Eve 1971. Her plane broke apart in a violent thunderstorm, but she survived in the Amazon jungle. Lanza Flight 508 crashed in Peru on December 24, 1971, after being struck by lightning. Juliane was one of 92 people on board, and she was the only survivor. She fell 3,000 meters, that's 10,000 feet, while strapped to her seat and landed in the Amazon rainforest. She walked for 11 days to find help, despite injuries including a concussion and broken collarbone. Juliane was the daughter of German zoologists Maria and Hans Wilhelm Kupka. She was raised at their biological research station called Panguana in the Peruvian jungle. This jungle knowledge would save her life. Juliane became a jungle child as she grew up on the station. She learned about life in the rainforest, that it wasn't the dangerous place most people imagine. In 1971, Juliane and Maria booked tickets to return to Panguana to join her father for Christmas. Her mother wanted to get there early, but Juliane was desperate to attend her graduation ceremony. Their only option was to fly on Christmas Eve on Lanza Flight 508. Juliane's father knew the aircraft had a terrible safety reputation and urged them to find an alternative route, but they decided to book their tickets anyway. The flight initially seemed routine. Placed in the second row from the back, Juliane took the window seat while her mother sat beside her. They ate their sandwiches and looked at the rainforest from the window. But 15 minutes before they were supposed to land, the sky suddenly grew black with storm clouds. Daylight turns to night and lightning flashes from all directions. People gasp as the plane shakes violently. Bags, wrapped gifts, and clothing fall from overhead lockers. People scream and cry in panic. Maria, a nervous flyer, murmured, "I hope this goes all right." Juliane recalled seeing a huge flash of white light over the plane's wing that seemed to plunge the aircraft into a nosedive. "Now it's all over," Maria said in an eerily calm voice. Then the scream seemed to vanish. The next thing I knew, I was no longer inside the cabin. I was outside in the open air. I hadn't left the plane. The plane had left me. Juliane, likely the only person in her row wearing a seatbelt, spiraled down into the Amazon alone. Juliane woke up alone in the jungle on Christmas Day. She had a concussion, broken collarbone, and cuts, but she kept walking to find people. She followed a river downstream, just as her parents had taught her. On the jungle floor, Juliane assessed her injuries. Woozy and confused, she lay there almost like an embryo for the rest of the day and night. Without her glasses, Juliane found it difficult to orientate herself. Her first priority was to find her mother. She could identify the croaks of frogs and bird calls around her. She recognized the sounds of wildlife from Panguana and realized she was in the same type of jungle. There was almost nothing her parents hadn't taught her about jungle survival. She only had to find this knowledge in her concussion-fogged head. Juliane pried herself from her airplane seat and stumbled forward. She found a packet of lollies that fell from the plane and walked along a river, just as her parents had taught her. For 11 days, she survived on that packet of candy. She floated in the river to avoid piranhas in the shallows. The jungle was in its wet season, so it rained relentlessly. Everything was too damp to light a fire. Much of what grows in the jungle is poisonous, so she kept her hands off anything she didn't recognize. On day 4, she found 3 passengers still strapped to their seats, buried in the earth from the impact. She checked if one was her mother, but it wasn't. The call of king vultures struck fear in Julianne. The scavengers only circled when something had died. One passenger was a woman, and Julianne inspected her toes to check if it was her mother. They were polished. My mother never used polish on her nails, she thought with relief. Julianne could hear rescue planes overhead, but the forest canopy kept her hidden. She was sunburned, starving, and weak, and by the 10th day, ready to give up hope. On day 11, Julianne found a small hut with a palm leaf roof. Inside was petrol, which she poured on her infected shoulder wound to remove maggots, just as her father had taught her. The gash was infected with maggots. She poured petrol over the wound, enduring intense pain as the maggots tried to burrow deeper. She pulled out about 30 maggots and was proud of her medical success. The next day, local fishermen found her and brought her to safety. She awoke to men's voices and rushed from the hut. The Peruvian fishermen were terrified by the sight of the skinny, dirty, blonde girl. They thought she was a water goddess from local legend, but Julianne's parents had taught her Spanish. "I'm a girl who was in the Lanza crash," she said clearly. "My name is Julianne." Julianne lost her mom in the crash. She walked through hell to honor her memory. Today, Julianne became a scientist and helps protect jungles, just like her parents did. These survivors, Viswash, Bahia, and Julianne, show us that miracles can happen. They were brave, quick-thinking, and never gave up hope. Viswash escaped through a broken emergency door in 32 seconds. Bahia survived 13 hours in the ocean without a life vest. Julianne used her jungle knowledge to survive 11 days alone in the Amazon. What would you do in a plane crash? Aviation experts say put your seatbelt on tight, know where the exits are, and get out quickly without grabbing belongings. As Viswash's story shows, getting away fast before fire spreads is crucial for survival. These incredible survivors remind us that even in the darkest moments, hope and human resilience can triumph against impossible odds. These survivors didn't just walk away from the wreckage, they walked into history. If this video moved you, inspired you, or even gave you chills, you're not alone. These are stories meant to be remembered. So if you want more true stories of survival, human courage, and the incredible twists of fate that can change everything in an instant, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you believe in the strength of the human spirit, give this video a like and share it with someone who needs to hear that miracles do happen. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay hopeful, and we'll see you in the next story.